I'm seriously trying to think of a better way to start each review than saying, okay, so, ever since I realized I was doing that, it has just been bugging the hell out of me. And so I'm sitting here trying to think of a better way to start the review than, okay, so. And I'm not coming up with anything, so I guess we're just going to have to start with, okay, so, this is an interesting one. This is a film that is trying really hard to be very topical, and it succeeds. I mean, it's coming at you with some heavy reality and some really difficult subject matter. And I think of all the films I've seen that kind of, or I know that are coming out that are going to be dealing with this, I think this one probably has handled it the best so far, at least from my opinion. So if you haven't heard of this film, which I'm not surprised if you haven't, because I don't think it's had much publicity. So in this film, Naomi Harris plays a rookie cop in New Orleans who, rolling on a beat, sound like I'm on Adam 12. But anyway, rolling on a beat with a more experienced cop, she catches a bunch of narcotics agents executing some drug dealers, and she catches it all on her body cam. So now the dirty cops are chasing her. They tell the drug dealer's kingpin uncle that she killed him, so now the gangsters are looking for her, and she's just trying to get this body cam back to the police headquarters to upload it and, bring the guys to justice. So that's just and that movie, not in that movie, but that really, the plot in this is kind of incidental. And what I mean by that is this film has much bigger things on its mind and on its plate, and it's using kind of this basic storyline to try to get across those bigger ideas. Because when I first saw trailers for this, what it looked like to me was going to be it was going to be a lot more action packed, going to be almost like a Die Hard kind of thing of this, lone cop alone in the world, and of course she meets a helpful sidekick, and they're running, jumping, climbing trees, getting out of scrapes, fighting off gangsters and all that. That's the way the trailers and everything kind of made it look. And that's not the direction they went. Like, this movie really, really gets down and dirty. This is very, I'm not gonna say it's gritty, but it's trying to be very realistic. It's not trying, it's not an action movie, which is probably what it's gonna get classified as, but it's really not. It's a film that, again, I think its social commentary is more on the forefront of its mind. And Naomi Harris, of course, being, an African-American cop and working in a predominantly black or African-American neighborhood where the people there see her as a traitor, and so she's not getting any help from that side. The cops, are, most of the cops she's dealing with are rolling dirty. So, she's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think that that conflict, that's the primary conflict here. And I think, it's just how she's maneuvering between these two worlds and how she's trying to convince both sides that, I'm not just a black person and I'm not just a cop. I'm a black person cop. I can belong to both sides. And, it doesn't have to be this way. So yeah, I tip my hat to this movie for trying to be intelligent. Not trying to be, it is intelligent. You know? And I think it's playing real... it's playing it real close. You know, it's trying so hard to be more of a message film than I think it was originally advertised as. And it's a hard line to walk. And I think the film does it pretty well. However, I think the choice to go much more realistic has a downside, and that is the film does drag. Like, there's a lot of scenes of, you know, early on in the film, there's a lot of scenes of running, jumping, climbing trees, followed by long stints of just sitting and talking or something. And then when it looks like an action scene is about to break out, it breaks out and it's immediately ended. Now, again, that's what they were going for, but it does drag the pacing of your movie down. I think the strength of this film, aside from its message and what it's trying to get across, and again, I want to stress just how difficult this message is to get across, because it is trying really hard to not come down on the side of all cops are evil, and it's also not trying to come down too hard on the side of, you know, the African Americans in this situation are all victims. You know, it's trying to be very even-handed. It skews a little bit. Obviously, you can kind of see that. Most of the cops in this movie are bad guys. Like, most of them. Like, aside from her, you really don't get any other, which again is supposed to be the point. But some of it rears a little too much to one side, at least in terms, for me, of the realism it's trying to go for and the balance it's trying to go for. They've got just a couple characters in there who are just, you know, the most stereotypical kind of racist cop characters. Again, I get that that's what they're going for, so I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. I'm just saying it's a thing when a lot of your characters are well constructed and your story is well told. Things that are, pardon the expression, I can't think of it, but things that are much more black and white, or characters that are much more black and white, again, that's a terrible turn of phrase for this, they stick out more. So characters who are just bad stick out and are more awkward in a film where the rest of the characters are fairly well drawn, you know? So, like I say, it aims for something. It doesn't quite hit the mark as much as I think it wanted to, but it does hit the mark. I think the power of this film is really in its performances. It's got some really strong performances. I know Naomi Harris does a great job as our lead character. Like, she really, I think it's really hard. It is very hard for a woman heading up an action-centered piece, because especially, I don't know who wrote it, but you know, if a man's writing it, they tend to skew one way. They're either complete bitches, or they still end up needing to be rescued by a man somewhere along the line. And you know, I think, you know, it's one of those two extremes is what I'm saying. And I think her performance and her character is very, very well balanced. And that's a hard thing to do, to play. A character who is both really tough, you know, and a fighter, and someone who is at the same time very vulnerable. You know, it's a really difficult thing to play and not come off as cheesy or, you know, ridiculous. And I think she really pulls it off. Like, the character is very, 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 very relatable and just right in there. I really liked her in this. Also, big ups to, I looked his name up and I totally forgot, Tyrese Dixon. Oh man, I feel so bad. But I'm just gonna say Tyrese because I'm pretty sure that's his first name. Tyrese plays a local market worker, this guy working at the local market who kind of through happenstance ends up helping her out, and he's really good. You know, because again, the roles are very much reversed here. You know, from a typical action movie. Like if you think, I remember watching it, you know, thinking about like Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the woman in that, where, you know, she was like his but his helper. So the roles are really reversed here, and I think Tyrese gives a really, really strong performance. You know, playing a guy who, you know, is tough. You know, there's this scene where she, after she's running away from the dirty cops, she goes to his market because she doesn't know where else to go, and he thinks someone's breaking in, so he hits the silent alarm. So of course cops show up, and when the cops show up, of course it's the two racist cops who bust in, handcuff him, put a gun to his head, and he is playing this so vulnerable, you know, and he's got tears in his eyes. You know, and it's amazing acting to watch as a guy is both really powerful and really vulnerable at the same time. You know, it's not easy to pull off, and he really does a great job of it. Big ups also to Luke Cage, who is in this. Mike, again, I'm not sure of his last name, but the guy who played Luke Cage on Netflix. Man, he's in this. He's playing the head kingpin of the drug dealers, and man, he's intimidating as fuck. And I loved him as Luke Cage. I thought he was just the perfect Luke Cage, and it's so good to see him kind of, you know, he's playing the complete opposite of what he was playing there, and man, is he intimidating, and he's really good. Frank, I can't remember anybody's last name tonight. Frank Grillo, guy who played Crossbones in the Captain America movies. He's our main villain, the narc cop who's chasing her. He's pretty good as these kind of villains go. I think what was interesting, at least from my reading of it, I don't know if anybody else, any of the other people in the film watching it would have this reading. I like that he was the villain, but they went the opposite route with him, and he wasn't a racist villain. You know? They played it more as he was a guy who went dirty because he felt like they weren't, the cops and everything weren't getting any help or weren't getting any backing after Katrina and all this. I mean, but it'd be very easy to make this character, again, pardon the expression, very black and white. You know, but instead they decide to not go that route. Like the fact that she's black isn't, or like I don't even think like I don't think that the fact that he's, you know, the drug dealers are black really matter to him. It's just more they were the means to the end, and he was taking them out so that he wouldn't get in trouble. Like I say, it would be really easy to go that way with it. But if it's there in the subtext. Like they don't get up on a soapbox. They let the subtext play out, and he lets it play out. But one of the things I found really fun about this is that for a brief moment, we got to see Crossbones versus Luke Cage. That's just the Marvel fan in me. Not all the characters work. I talked about the two racist cops. I think they were just too cartoony. And there's this other character, like a girl that Naomi Harris knew when she was a kid, and now she's with the drug dealers. Like her character, it's supposed to present a link to Naomi Harris's past there in the neighborhood, and how she left the neighborhood, and that's kind of the whole thing. But I don't know. I don't think a character is well written if you can picture the movie without them and it doesn't change at all. So nothing against the actor, but the character just feels superfluous to me. You know, so you know what I found funny about this movie? Funny like a bunny. you know what I found funny like a bunny about this movie is that it's rated R. And I was expecting, when you go see a rated R cop film, you expect like the F-bombs to be dropping left, right, and sideways. I don't think they said fuck once. And that's not a bad thing. It just, you're used to in movies like this just hearing them say fuck, 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 fuck. You know, all over the place, like every other word, like it's an HBO special or something. But they didn't say it once in a rated R movie, which makes me wonder like what it was rated R for? Because the violence was not that violent. You know, so I'm not sure where the rated R came from for this. So I'm praising this movie a lot because I think there's a lot of good stuff going on in it. But I don't think at the end of the day it worked as well as it could have. And I think the main problem is pacing, which I come back to a lot. The pacing of it is very, very slow. And it for me at least, and it could just be, you know, I've been up since, you know, 3 o'clock this morning. It's now 12:30 at night as I'm recording. So it could just be that I'm very tired right now and just maybe just want to be in bed. But so maybe if I saw this when I was more awake, I wouldn't feel like the pacing was dragging so much. But I really do feel like that really slows the film down. That, and again, some of the more superfluous characters or the less well-written characters that stand out against the really well-defined and well-acted characters. So I think that's an issue. But all in all, I think a good movie. And again, I give it a lot of credit because it would be so easy for this film, and justifiable. This film is really trying to be, I'm not going to say impartial, but they're not trying to convey either side as completely evil. And obviously this is a big fucking issue in the world, sadly. And obviously, I will never know what it's like to be, an African American male, getting pulled over and manhandled for no reason. Or worried they're going to get shot every time the cop lights come on. I don't know that. I'm never going to know that. But, not that it's anything even comparable, but, I teach a lot of young African American males, and I hear them talk, and I get that it is a real fear out there. And I also feel for the good cops that are out there who are trying to do their job, trying to keep the streets safe, but because of the actions of these assholes, it makes their lives a lot harder. There was some footage this past summer of these cops in New York trying to do their job, and people are throwing water at them or throwing bricks at them, and they're just ignoring it and trying to do their job. But, so the point I'm trying to make here is that it's a really, really fucked up situation on both sides, and it's very easy for a film to come that, is obviously geared towards a certain audience. That's not a bad thing. But it's very easy for that film to kind of come down hard on the one side and say everybody on that other side is an ass. And this movie leans into that line, but it never crosses it, in my opinion. It leans a little that way. I think it could have been a tiny bit more impartial, but a movie needs antagonists, so I get it. So, and that is really hard, and I applaud this movie for not taking the easy way out. Because I'm watching it, and there are a couple times I'm watching it going, boy, they're going to end it like this, or they're going to do this, and it's just going to take the easy way. And they don't. The movie does not take the easy way out. And that's hard to do in today's, today's media, because people want certain endings or people expect certain things, and to kind of supplant those expectations is a tricky thing. And I applaud the movie for doing that. I really do. So final grade for this one. I'm gonna go a B-. B as in bunny. Gonna go a B- in this one. I think it's worth checking out. I don't know if I'd watch it again, honestly, but I'm glad I saw it. And again, I'm very appreciative of the film for all the chances it took, and I really think the cast is stellar. Really good acting by our main cornerstones there. I think they really did some nice work. Okay, so that's this one. I hope that was a good review. Honestly, as I've been up for a long time, and I'm not like driving, I'm not like driving impaired or anything like that, but I can definitely feel my mind kind of going as I'm talking. It's like going, is that coherent? Is that sentence coherent? So I hope that this review was in fact coherent and not just the ramblings of an extremely tired man. But anyway, there it is. This is what you do when you feel the compulsion to review a movie a week. Sometimes you go to the late show. All right, so that was this one. As always, I thank you for joining me, and until next time, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.